Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, folks, wherever you are. Welcome to M1 Racing and our live coverage of round 10 of the GFR Racing Elite League this week from Qatar. And we've got an extra special race day, both a sprint and a feature race for us to cover here. So we are going to be super busy here. To help me with that, we've got Pete, as usual, monitoring the chat for us and keeping an eye on the racing elsewhere on track. Unfortunately, we're still without Rio, who struggles with their technical issues, but hopefully, fingers crossed, their return to the commentary box is not far away. But I'm delighted to welcome Toby back to the commentary box with us this week. He's going to keep an eye on strategy for us as we look at how our drivers go around this very fast and exciting track here in Qatar. Toby, welcome back. You're looking forward to this one?
Yeah. It should be quite nice, it should be fast, should be lots of action in the sprint.
There's going to be plenty for us to talk about here and to cover. Before we get out there, we will take a quick look at the driver standings because we are, and the results from last week, because we are getting to the sharp end of the championship. We're into round 10 of 12, so just two more to go after today. So all to play for still, but it's getting tight at the top. So M1 Righty was the victor in Monza last week in Italy, drove superbly, getting the fastest lap as well, so absolute maximum points for M1 Righty there, and not too bad for Alpine either. Emelecki was back on the podium too, second place for them after their win in the Netherlands. Zandvoort follows that up with a second place in Monza, and M. Dorling also back on the podium, another third for them, so congratulations to M. Dorling, but also their teammate Obo coming there in fourth. So an absolutely cracking week in Monza for the Alfa Romeo team. Our championship leader, though, had not such a good race day. SHS Predestinato finishing down there in fifth. I think the first time only that they've ever been outside the podium this season. SS7 and SFS for Mercedes not having the best of days, but still scoring well. Spicy finishing there in 8th, and Let's Go RFK were our final finishers. I've got Rio Baggysaurus in the Twitch chat. Rio, thanks ever so much for tuning in. We would rather have you here in the commentary box, but get your technology fixed and we would welcome you back with open arms. You've joined for a really cracking round, and you'll have a great watch here. Toby's keeping your seat warm for you, and we welcome you back as soon as you're able to join us. So let's look at what that means for the driver standings. I'm going to drop our music out of the way just for a moment. It's going to get busy and noisy. So SHS is leading the way on 175 points. They have finished in the top 5 in the last 5 races, but SHS is usually there or thereabouts. M1 Righty in second on 159 points. That victory last week in Monza really helping close down the gap in the championship on their teammate. We have not yet decided the winner of GFR Racing Season 2, and it's going to go down to the wire if M1 Righty can get another victory here in Qatar. Emelecki now moving up into third spot, so continuing to pile in the points after the victory at Zandvoort and then that second place last week in Monza. And SS7, having now been relegated to fourth, is coming under pressure from M. Dorling, who's racking up the points, and we can see M. Dorling's haul of points increasing week on week. So SS7 needs to get a move on if they want to retake that third place from Emelecki and stave off the challenge from M. Dorling. Joe Bean is sadly not able to drive for us anymore, so they are going to finish the season on 82 points. Toby, I'll ask this question before we get out onto track. We've got a bit of a battle now forming between SHS Predestinato and M1 Righty. Do you think M1 can topple Predestinato from that championship spot?
It's definitely within the reach. It's just whether if they'll use team orders. FAS being the reigning champion at the moment in GFR Racing, M1 Righty being new, this season or last season came in. So, who knows?
Well, indeed. That's going to be interesting. So, it could be pretty tense in the Alpine camp as we get to the final stages of the season. Just to remind you, we'll revisit this later on before we finish today. But we've just got Vegas and Abu Dhabi to come to decide the GeForce Elite League champion for Season 2. But we have got 2 races here today, the sprint and the feature race. And qualifying, as you can see, is well underway. The results of qualifying here are going to set the grid for the sprint race. And then the results of the sprint race are going to set the grid for the feature race. So our drivers looking to get a good starting position for the sprint, because that's going to have a massive influence on where they start in the feature race. And I do want to mention that we've got a driver returning to us after a short absence, but probably as a one-time cameo. We've got David T back driving for Haas. We've missed David T's presence on a Wednesday. Delighted that they're able to be here in Qatar. And I know this is one of David's favourite tracks. So it's shown that already with the fastest qualifying time so far, 1:20.642 for David T. So if David could get on pole for the start of this race, I know he will be absolutely delighted. M. Dorling setting the second fastest time provisionally so far with a 1:20.842. Then Matthew M. Then Desaves. Then Obo. Spicy Nuts with us this week. A new driver, Jojo Kitaro, with driving for Williams. So taking Toby's spot there, I think. Setting a time of 1:21.833. SHS Predestinato is out there, and they set a 1:20.062. Toby, do you think we'll get any drivers getting into the 1:19s?
It's quite possible, definitely for SHS, and most likely M1, being that they're already on the cusp of the 1:19s. And definitely some drivers have promising as the track rubbers up.
Gonna get interesting here. We're on board with Emelecki. So Emelecki back on the podium 2 weeks in a row after a very long absence is now going to take us on a fast lap of this fantastic race circuit here at the Losail circuit in Qatar. You'll see just really long, fast sweeping corners for our drivers to navigate. Just the one DRS zone here, but it's a very, very long main straight. And that's where we'll see the majority of our overtaking into turn 1. Possibly the slowest corner on the circuit, Emelecki going through there at turn 6. Back on the throttle, late apex. If they can make that one work, running wide over the curbs. Full throttle through these more sweeping corners. Back on the throttle again through 10. And we're going to head round to really fast triple right-hander. So it'll be flat out for Emelecki here, as they try and beat SHS Predestinato's time of 1:20.062. Heading down to this final corner, turn 16. Back on the power, into the DRS zone, DRS wide open. Reaching maximum speed down the straight in 8th gear. And Emelecki sets the time for 1:20.992, 9/10, nearly a whole second off of SHS Predestinato, but just a warm-up for Emelecki as they look to get back on the podium. We'll see drivers being able to stay within the range of the other drivers just by being within a second of the DRS when we get under race conditions. The sprint race is going to be very, very short today. It's just 10 laps, then we get 29 laps for the feature race. So the sprint race will be over in a flash with lapse times of just 1 minute 20 seconds. David T in the Twitch chat says that's a banker. We're holding 3rd position provisionally, David. It's going to be a tight one between you and SS7 and M. Dorling, I think, at the moment. I'm sure some of our other drivers are going to have something to say about that, and we don't have M1 Righty out on track just yet. So M1 Righty's just started their outlap, so we'll keep an eye on M1. Welcome back, Matthew M. This week they had their best finishing position with GeForce Racing, I think, last week. So Matthew M improving after some difficult races, it's fair to say, in the early stages of the season. They've set a time of 1:21.198. So I've gone down to one of our new drivers, Williams driver of Jojo Kitaro. We might just call them Jojo because my tongue is going to really struggle with that name. So we'll ride on board with them as they look to start and beat their current time for 121.833. We really don't know much about Jojo at all, so it will be good to ride on board with them round here. While Jojo's going here, I'm going to bring up the lap data so we can see if they are improving. Jojo's joined us obviously at an interesting time in the season. We really are at the business end now, and they'll be mixing it with the drivers really after winning the championship here. They're up slightly in Sector 1, so are improving as they come out of Turn 6. And this is where it gets tricky for our drivers when we get into race conditions. And cars staying out of our way on the right hand side, thank you to them. It's going to get busy as we get towards the end of this qualifying session with most drivers being out there looking to set one more time. We've got 7 minutes left of qualifying here for the sprint race. You just see flat out here from Jojo. Judged that pretty much bang on. Last but one corner, dropping a gear using the engine braking to slow them down. Final corner. Running out wide, but not beyond track limits. That would invalidate our time. Jojo looking to beat 121.833. And does improve by 2.5 tenths. Well done, Jojo. Keeps them in 10th place at the moment, but did pick up a little bit of time there. So welcome to Jojo, and congratulations to them. We're on board with Sam Ross, who is the reserve driver for Haas today. We've got our fingers crossed that Mr. Hannes is going to be back in the not too distant future. But we're very glad to have Sam Ross with us, who unfortunately goes a little bit wide. And here we see the queue of cars. I'm going to get down to M1 Righty, who's on their first flying lap. They're coming in to the final corner now. We're going to go over the start-finish line, and M1 Righty sets the time for 120.342. So the Alpines leading the way here in qualifying. SHS Predestinato has provisional pole position. M1 Righty is next. Now, there was a really interesting stat about SHS and their pole positions. I think they have the most so far, and I think they're consecutive poles also. I think they may have 4 in a row. I will check David T's stats on that when I get a moment, but it looks at the moment at least, SHS is going to keep that run going. SS7 has moved up into third. Well, they were briefly until NRG Panzerotto comes in with the fastest time, pretty much a 1:20 dead. Toby, that's a pretty impressive time from NRG Panzerotto.
Yeah, considering they haven't been performing the best in other races, beating SHS, the current champion, you must be running a really optimised setup for quali. That might be slightly more difficult in race trim, but yeah, that'll be interesting to see.
That was pretty incredible from Panzerotto. And now we're on board with David T, welcoming David back, probably for one race only. David is in our Ironman League on a Sunday, and I had a lot of fun racing around Brazil with the team of drivers here on Sunday. But David is unable to be with us every Wednesday, but they really wanted to be here for Qatar, and they're really showing it. So we're coming through Sector 2 here. We're hoping that David is going to improve slightly. It's a pretty good time so far, 120.642. But you can see what we're up against with NRG and SHS Predestinato. So David coming round the final corners of this lap. It's a really fast section. Got to judge the line spot on. We go past the pit entry there. And then round the final corner. Very tight apex from David. That was pretty neat. So we're looking to beat 120.642. And does improve, David. 120.517 moves them up into 5th. Toby, it's going to be really tight at the top and there's nothing really to separate the front runners here. It's going to be a very close race.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be more interesting than any F1 race to date. But yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting with the sprint, and then who can finish on top of that, and then who can actually convert that into a win.
Now I've moved down to Obo. I wanted to give Obo a shout here because they have been improving along with their teammate M. Dorling. Obo finishing 5th in Monza, their highest ever finishing position, I believe, with G-Force Racing across both seasons. So delighted for Obo and the Alfa Romeo team. Obo and M. Dorling have struck up a really good relationship in that team and now banking points and putting other teams now under pressure. We'll take a look at the constructor standings a little bit later. But Obo here just setting up for their probably last qualifying lap. There's 2 minutes and 30 seconds left of qualifying to go. So not very long. Remember, our drivers need to get over the start-finish line to start their lap before the checkered flag comes down. So Obo will have plenty of time to do just that. But it is going to get busy, and I think Obo may have done well to get out there early before the remaining drivers come out to do their final laps. You see out laps being shown all over the place. The McLaren getting out of the way of Spicy Nuts. We're no loss this week, which is a shame, but we're glad Spicy's here. So Obo's going to start their final flying lap. We ride on board with them here. Head down into turn 1. That famous collision last year between Lewis Hamilton and George Russell in that very corner. Through 2. We want to take as much speed as we can through this next sequence to need a good exit out of 2. Gentle lift into 3. Back on the power again. And then down into 6 here. The tightest corner on the circuit. But again, exit from this one is going to set us up for the rest of the lap. Late apex on this next corner, run out wide, straddle the curbs. Obo being very generous there. And gone a little bit wide from track limits there. I think that may be the end of Obo's lap. We'll see if they keep going. And we flat out. Obo taking huge chunks of curb there. I think they may indeed be coming in. So that was track limits for Obo. Spicy Nuts coming around to finish their flying lap. They were looking to be at 121.504. Nobody has beaten NRG Panzerotto's time yet, 120.009. And Spicy gets a 120.721, improves by nearly 0.8 of a second. That moves them up into 7th. So good drive there from Spicy. Up to SS7. SS7 not improving, so they're into the pits. M1 Righty's looking to get in on the front row action. Pete is telling me SHS is 0.2 of a second up, so they are definitely improving. I believe NRG and NRG Panzerotto and SHS Predestinato also race together in another league. So there's probably a little bit of pride at stake here for the AlphaTauri driver and the Alpine driver. So we can see that one playing out quite nicely. M1 Righty looking to improve. SHS does set the fastest lap. 119.968 moves back into pole position. We'll see if M1 Righty can have anything to say about that. They are improving. They definitely are improving. They're up about 0.2 so far. They're going to be coming around the last corner now. M1 pretty much the only one who's likely to take this. NRG takes the pole position. 119.929. And M1 Righty moves up into 3rd, a 120.079. Wow. All right, Toby, I'm going to put you on the spot straight away. Who's going to win this?
It's anyone I reckon anyone from top 3, maybe even top 5. Because only the top 5 are about separated by 0.6 of a second.
There's absolutely nothing in it. And with the benefit of DRS, as we get under race conditions, it'll allow those drivers behind to really stay very tight to the leaders They'll need to get away. We're going to have to watch this ever so closely. I'm so delighted I've got Toby and Pete with me this week. It would be even better if Rio was here with us also, because I think we'll need every pair of eyes we can get. Decives, so Decives has finished. I thought they might just be coming, just fit on the way in, but they have come into the pits. So that is qualifying for us. It does look as though there may be a car still out there. So that is Decives' car being pushed back into the Mercedes garage. Decives finishing, I believe, ahead of SS7 last week in Monza. So they've been doing well. There we go. So this is our classification from qualifying that will set the grid for the sprint race. NRG Panzerotto, their first ever pole position with G-Force Racing. SHS Predestinato, our championship leader, loses their run of pole positions and starts alongside NRG Panzerotto on the front row in second place. M1 Righty, SHS's Alpine teammate, in third. M Dorling in fourth. Another good qualifying from M Dorling. David T, we welcome him back with fifth spot on the grid. SS7 for Mercedes in sixth. Spicy Nuts in seventh. Emelecki in eighth. Matthew M in ninth. Decives in 10th. Obo in 11th. Jojo Kitaro in 12th. Sancho Killer in 13th. And Sam Ross 10. For Haas in 14th. I don't think I've missed anyone out, so we do indeed have 14 drivers out there this week. So plenty to keep us occupied. Just the 10 laps here for the sprint race. I don't think we'll see any pit stops, so it will just be all about pace here. And I'm seeing in the drivers' chat how there's some, some praise and some amazement from our drivers to Panzerotto's time. Even SHS Predestinato taken a bit aback by that pace from Panzerotto. Let's see if they can translate that into race performance. As Toby was suggesting, maybe it's a good setup for qualifying, but not so great for racing. We will see very shortly. In terms of constructors, this is what they're up against. Alpine pretty much have got the championship nailed on. Mercedes almost certain of second, but now for third spot, it's really turning into a fight between Aston Martin and Alfa Romeo. Aston being helped out massively by the big scoring by Emelecki in recent weeks, but Alfa Romeo getting consistent high points now with both M. Dorling and Obo scoring week on week. Let's put them there. 5 lights on. All right, folks, let's go racing for round 10 here in Qatar. The sprint race for the G-Force Racing Elite League. Looks like a good start from M1 Righty, who's got through on both NRG Panzerotto and SHS Predestinato. What a great start from M1. That moves them into the lead of this race immediately. Battles galore going on behind. M. Dorling was right on the back of SHS. Looks as though they had to back out. That's allowed David T to get through. Oh, it did look as though David T had got through, but no, he had to drop back. So cars very tight together. We'll see this a lot here. Pete's telling me about a crash between Decives and Jojo, so that's pushed those two drivers towards the back of the field here. M. Dorling was trying to find a way past NRG Panzerotto, wasn't able to make that work. But M1 Righty has scampered off already over a second out ahead of SHS Predestinato, and that is going to be absolutely crucial here to get out of the DRS. Otherwise, then they will be able to leave the others for dust. So M1 Righty having some incredible pace, which we didn't see them have during qualifying as such. They were quick, but not as quick as some of the others. But that extra second advantage is going to do them well. Unless SHS uses a lot of battery and can get on the back of their teammate pretty quickly. So M1 Righty leads the way on as we start lap 2 here in Qatar. Remember, only 10 laps. This is going to go very, very quickly. Going to go down to M. Dorling here, who's putting NRG Panzerotto under all sorts of pressure. They're trying to find a way past. SS7 has got past David T, so David T's dropped back into 6th. Emelecki there in 7th, behind David T. So David T having a bit of a tough time of it at the moment, really caught up in this gaggle of cars here, as we were talking about just before the race started. These drivers very evenly matched. Spicy Nuts here in 8th is following on behind Emeleki, and then Obo on the trail of this pretty much DRS train, which is just about to get going when the DRS gets activated, which should be at the end of this lap. Toby, we're going to bring you in here. In terms of strategy, we're not going to see any tyres, but I think from a driver's perspective, they've just got to hold on to the car in front of them.
Yeah, I've just been looking at the tyres that have been used from Quali and this one. A few have got spare mediums and a few have got spare soft, but definitely no pit stop should be used today. They should just try and eke those tyres out, even in the dirty air of the opponent.
And DRS is now enabled. We're on board with Spicy Nuts as we were trying to find a way past the Aston Martin of Emeleki. As we just come through turn 2 now, these drivers desperate to find a way past. SHS Predestinato cannot close down that gap to M1 Righty. They've really stolen a march on the field behind them. Bearing in mind, this is the championship at stake here. M1 Righty needs to keep finishing above Predestinato to have a chance of taking that championship crown at the end of the season. NRG Panzerotto has gone with SHS Predestinato, but so has M Dorling. We're on board here with SS7 as they look to try and keep at least in pace with M Dorling, maybe even find a way past. They've started pretty well here, but you see the gap is starting to open up. They cannot afford to let that get to more than a second with DRS now available. M Dorling seemed to struggle for traction. I think that was coming out of turn 10 there. Turn 9, my apologies. As we come into the final corner here, SS7 has closed that gap back up to M Dorling. And Toba, I think what we do need to bear in mind here at Qatar, and we saw this in the real world, is that Qatar is not kind on tyres at all.
No, I've been doing my research, especially the front left is definitely where it damages a lot. So you've got to keep an eye on that. Apparently some people got to 70% within the first, I think, 10 laps.
We saw in the real world how the soft tyres were literally lasting moments before they were completely and utterly destroyed. So it's going to play a big role in this race before we come to the end, and even more so in the feature race. And we'll talk to Toby about what that might mean for tyre strategy when we get to the break. But we've still got racing here on the sprint race here of round 10 of GeForce Racing Elite League. We're on lap 4, M1 Righty leading the way, but now SHS Predestinato is going to be under pressure from NRG Panzerotto as we come around this super fast section of track here. You see our drivers using every single inch of track. SHS gone very wide, so they are going to be... They have a significant chance of being passed here by NRG. Indeed, NRG has the DRS. 3-second time penalty for Jojo Kitaro. That moves NRG Panzerotto up into second place, taking more points away from SHS Predestinato if this is how it finishes. Now, we do only pay points for the first 8 finishing positions in the sprint race, so not a significant points all you would get, drivers will get from the sprint, but it's points nonetheless. But NRG has now made it up into second spot, and SHS Predestinato coming under pressure now from M Dorling in the Alfa Romeo. So M Dorling now looking to try and find a way past SHS Predestinato, and if SHS has had to use a lot of battery to try and at least keep with their teammate of M1, that's going to play into the hands of all the drivers behind them who may have been conserving, using the slipstreams of the car in front. It's very, very tough to lead round Qatar unless you can pull out a large gap. We are on board with M Dorling. It's the last of the top 4 runners which have broken away from SS7 behind them. So SS7 will have David T for company. And Dorling, Spicing out picks up a 3-second time penalty for track limits. That will be in the sprint race. That's going to hurt an awful lot. SHS trying to take back their second place from NRG Panzerotto, but not able to make it work. The gap to M1 Righty is still nearly 1.5 seconds. So M1 holding on to the lead of this race as we've just passed the halfway point. This front group of 4 runners pulling out more and more time on SS7 and David T. We'll go down to SS7 and David T. We see SS7 is out of battery. That red light flashing on the back of the Mercedes tells us that SS7 has used up pretty much all of their battery. It's gone out now, so it's recharging gradually as they brake round various corners. And the battery here ever so necessary to defend and to overtake. With David T on their return to G-Force Racing, currently running in 6th place, trying to find a way past the Mercedes driver of SS7. But behind David we've got Emeleki, who is hungry for more points after 2 podium finishes in the last 2 weeks, moving Aston Martin up into 3rd place in the Constructors' Championship as well. They'll be desperately hoping for more success here, and they, as you can see from their steering wheel, they have an awful lot of battery still available to them. So 50%, that's going to pay dividends in the very final stages of the race here. Obo is behind Emeleki, still within DRS. They're starting to drop back a little bit. We've seen Emeleki get right onto the gearbox ahead of us of David T. It's difficult to know where to look, folks, because there's battles going on all over the place. But I think Toby M1 has done a pretty decent job of holding out more than a second on NRG Panzerotto and Predestinato. They're going well up front.
Yeah, I definitely think SHS and NRG definitely had more of a quali setup, if anything, and are maybe struggling a little bit with tyres, and maybe that's why NRG has dropped off a little bit off of M1, just to keep out of the dirty air, but keep in the slipstream.
And it did look on my stream, Toby, I was looking at M. Dorling, that they went massively wide, but I think M. Dorling is glitching for us a little bit here, so hopefully it's not like that for them in the cockpit, but they are, no, it does, they've lost a second to, they have dropped back from SHS Predestinato, so maybe they did have a moment there, and that's dropped them back a little bit, which is a shame. SS7 though, and David T have all picked up 3-second time penalties, so that plays into the hands of Emeleki and Obo, who are battling it out right now for 7th and 8th. We're going to go back to the front. SHS was looking for a move on NRG Panzerotto. They haven't been able to make that work. We're on lap 8 of 10, so we've got 2 more to go after this one. But this has played into the hands of Emeleki and Obo, who are going to be able to take advantage. Oh no, M. Dorling has dropped down now. So I think we have... Yeah, so M. Dorling has dropped into AI. We saw that they did look as though they had connection issues at various points, and that we've lost them from here. So they are gradually dropping back down. Has moved SS7 up into 4th place, but bear in mind they've got 3-second time penalty. So has David T. So right now Emeleki and Obo are going to move up into 4th and 5th place, and potentially M. Dorling also, if they can get back and reconnect before this race comes to an end. But they are gradually dropping down the field. That's a real shame for M. Dorling to get those issues. Pete, I don't know if you see it in the driver's chat. M. Dorling is asking for an invite. Somebody has let him back in. Great stuff. So M. Dorling is back with us, but unfortunately in a sprint race to disconnect like that, we just lose so much time. So NRG Panzerotto is still holding SHS Predestinato at bay as we start lap 9. M1 Righty continues to lead the way here, but SHS cannot find a way past NRG Panzerotto. SS7 and David T side by side coming into turn 1. SS7 taking the wide line. They will now have the inside for turn 2. David T keeping SS7 under pressure here. David T has made it through though. So they've come through on SS7. David T moves up into 4th on track, but Emeleki is right behind this group of drivers and doesn't need to force the issue at all. with those drivers having 3-second penalties. So SS7 desperately holding on to the back of David T. But David T, having got that 3-second time penalty, is unfortunately not going to finish in that spot. Emelecki, on the other hand, and we're on board with Obo at the moment. Emelecki just following those two drivers in front of them. Their teammate M. Dorling having dropped back down into 8th spot now. Sancho Killer, we haven't spent any time with Sancho in this race because the action's been going on elsewhere. Sancho is running in 10th at the moment. They are outside the points currently. They will move up to 9th if they can get within 3 seconds of Spicy, who's currently there in 9th. But at the moment, Sancho is running in 10th. SFS here, not having the best of races here in the sprint, but they'll have an opportunity to put that right in the feature in just a moment. Sam Ross, we also haven't spent any time with in the sprint race here, but we will spend some time with him in the feature, picking up another time penalty. And Matthew M is running on AI, so they've had some connection issues. Back to the front of the race. M1 Righty leads the way, pretty much 1.5 seconds from NRG Panzerotto. David T and SS7 still fighting it out at the back here. But both with penalties, and Emelecki is all ready to pick up that extra couple of places. But they've got to defend from Obo, who's also thinking about moving up the field here as well. So Emelecki cannot go too careful here. We're going to go around the final corners. We're up to M1 Righty as they come round the very back of the circuit. Looking to pick up another victory for them and for Alpine. Further close the gap in the championship on their teammate and championship leader, SHS Predestinato. SHS Predestinato down there in 3rd place at the moment. NRG trying to close that gap down, but really have not made inroads in that 1.3 seconds. David T picking up another 3-second time penalty, but M1 Righty is going to cross the line to take victory in the sprint race here in Qatar. NRG Panzerotto comes over to take 2nd. SHS Predestinato finishes in 3rd. David T is going to come over the line in 4th, but these penalties are going to have an effect. They start dropping down, so Emelecki takes 4th place. Obo finishes in 5th. M. Dorling manages to benefit from those penalties and limits the damage from disconnecting. They finish in 6th. SS7 there in 7th and 8th. Let's go down to our other remaining drivers as they finish. Sam Ross coming over in 12th. Then Jojo finishing in 12th there. And David T is in the Twitch chat, a bit frustrated with their penalty, but we'll see many, many more of those in the feature race, with track limits being a real danger for many of our drivers. So there might be a brief pause here before we start the feature race, just so I think M. Dorling can sort out their connectivity issues very briefly. So hopefully there might be a brief pause, because we do want M. Dorling back in. So M. Dorling just trying to sort their internet out. But this is the final classification from the sprint race. M1 Righty is our victor for Alpine. NRG Panzerotto for Alpha Tauri in 2nd, their first spot on the podium with GeForce Racing. SHS Predestinato in 3rd. Emelecki moving up into 4th, getting the advantage of those penalties from the drivers in front. Obo in 5th and M. Dorling in 6th. Good, more points for Alfa Romeo. SS7 finishes in 7th, and David T picks up the last point from the sprint race for Haas. So not a complete disaster for David T in the end, still picking up points for Haas there. And we look forward to having some more Haas drivers back with us in future weeks. We've got Sam Ross out there, the Haas reserve driver this week, and we'll give them, hopefully they'll go much better in the feature race, which was just coming up. We're going to keep an eye on the driver chat as when we're going to get going. But Toby, this is a good time for us to talk about strategy for the feature race. We're going to have 29 laps here of the Losail circuit here in Qatar. We've spoken about tyres really not lasting too well around here. What do you think our drivers will go for in terms of race strategies and pit stops?
I can tell you right now, because I've just been put in a car, so I've got the pit board up in front of me. By the looks of it, it's suggesting either soft medium or hard medium. I would definitely personally go for a hard medium, just because we know how quick the softs can go off. But if you have damage in the last couple laps, I would pit for a soft, or if we get a safety car, last couple laps, pit for a soft.
A safety car here would really mix things up. And because we'll get various drivers thinking they will go for new tyres, others thinking that they'll stay out, depending on the timing of it. We saw multiple safety cars in recent weeks that have really influenced the race result, just because we've drivers that have built up a lead lose that automatically when the safety car comes out. I wouldn't be surprised even to see 2 stoppers here today. We know these tyres go off very, very quickly. So some drivers may think that just the extra pace per lap of an extra pit stop they can make back very quickly. It looks as though, everyone is readying up now, and we're hoping M. Dorling may have resolved their connectivity issues. We will see. We'll definitely keep our fingers crossed for that. They were going ever so well after qualifying and in the race. No, indeed. M. Dorling's going to be starting at least on AI. We'll see what they can do when they return. All right, folks, let's go racing for the feature race here of round 10 of G-Force Racing. M1 Righty, our winner from the sprint race just a few moments ago, has led the way. NRG Panzerotto has got back down the inside, or was trying to, of SHS Predestinato, but SHS is having none of it this time around. Obo has had a blinder off to start here. They are up into 4th, but they've got Emeleki moving down the inside, but Obo has held on to that 4th place at the moment. And then we've got the McLaren of Spicy Nuts moving through on the Mercedes of SS7. So it's all to play for here. We've got 29 laps to go. This is going to take us a little bit longer than the sprint race, and SS7 isn't letting go of that spot without a fight. So Obo is definitely the victor from the start there, moving up into 4th very, very quickly. M1 Righty has pulled out a massive lead already. That 1 second gap already there for M1 Righty. Sadly, M. Dorling's legged out again, and they've dropped right down the field. Hopefully, they haven't picked up any damage. They can get that. They can get that fixed and get back into the race. But a very unfortunate, tough day for M. Dorling after such a successful round of recent performances. So M1 Righty is setting the fastest time at the moment, but that's obviously only lap 1. Don't read too much into that at this point. But NRG is after SHS Predestinato. We've seen NRG has the pace around here in Qatar. Let's bring up the tyres, and Toby, let's have a quick look at those. So we've got a real mixture of tyre strategies going on. The front runners currently on medium. Sam Ross picking up a very early 3-second time penalty for track limits. So we've got our front runners on mediums, then SS7 and David T also, which is why they probably don't mind dropping down a few positions at this point in the early stages of the race. And then but quite a few cars out on soft. So when would you think our first pit stops are going to be?
Depends on how tidy they are, or how close to the other cars they are. I would reckon in about 10 laps or so for softs, and then for medium runners, front runners, I would expect them to get at least 15, maybe close to the high teens in the laps, and then possibly either go to mediums or softs on a lighter fuel load, or hards and softs, sorry.
I'm going to ask Pete to keep a close eye on the lap times of the soft runners, just to see how they start changing as we get a few laps in. I'd almost be surprised, Toby, if they get those soft tyres through to 10 laps, in all honesty. So it'll be interesting to see what actually happens here. But the soft tyre runners are going to be in much, much earlier. And the drivers are going to lose about 20 to 23 seconds in the pit lane here. It's quite a short pit lane. Once you get round, you've got the inside of the corner of turn 16, so we're shortening the track distance a little bit, but obviously at slower speeds once we get into the pit lane. A mandatory speed, I forget actually, I think is possibly about 50 kilometres an hour here in Qatar. So you do lose about 20 to 23 seconds here. But those on those softer runs may be able to make that time back up pretty quickly, particularly as the other medium runners will go off. Sancho Killer and Jojo are going to be worth watching. They are on hard tyres. And I guess, Toby, if you're on the hard tyres, you're looking at least half distance before you want to pit?
Definitely, because you don't want to ruin your mediums by pitting too early, and the hards you should be able to eke out well over, maybe, I reckon, 17 plus laps.
And NRG Panzerotto has come through into second place, so they're up into second, resuming where they finished, although go very wide there from Panzerotto. They'll be picking up a time penalty if they do that 3 times. So those white lines on the edge of the track, you see, folks, if you go all 4 wheels over those 3 times, you'll get 3-second time penalty, and that's happened to Sam Ross and Jojo Kitaro already. So many of our drivers are going to start feeling that. NRG has now got within a second of M1 Righty. Let's ride on board with NRG. They do have plenty of battery left. We're only on lap 4, but some drivers will have used an awful lot already. So NRG has been conserving that pretty well. They're really on the edge of the 1 second DRS range to M1. And as if they can hold on to that, that's going to show us whether or not NRG Panzerotto could potentially win this race. M1 Righty has got some good pace here in Qatar. And they lead the way on lap 4 here of 29. Pete's telling me that Emilecki is the fastest of the soft runners. Indeed, they lead the gaggle of soft running cars. But SS7 was having a pretty decent battle down here with Spicy Nuts, going wheel to wheel through turn 1. But it looks as though SS7 has got that move done on Spicy. SS7 on the medium tyres, Spicy on the soft red-walled soft tyres, and perhaps starting to lose some of the pace. And we'll see this, I think, pretty quickly. This will give us a good insight as to how good these soft tyres are. But SS7 taking advantage. We'll stay with them. Just briefly, I've got my eye also on NRG Panzerotto, who is now well within DRS range of M1 Righty. That gap down now to just under 9/10 of a second. SHS has gone with them also, so M1 not having it their own way in the feature race, but a long way to go. Yeah, SS7 really picking up the pace now. Has got right onto the back of Obo. Obo's starting to struggle, has dropped well back from Emilecki. You need 3 seconds back to Emilecki there, and then Emilecki is 1.5 seconds back. Toby, I think these soft tyres are going already.
I'm not surprised. Definitely the front left, 100%. But I'm not surprised. 4 laps in, it's also the track's meant to be designed for sand to go over it and not be affected like Bahrain. So that will tear up your tyres very easily.
Pete's telling me that Emilecki is 0.8 slower than SHS, so that they really cannot keep up the pace. Very close between the Alfa Romeo of Obo and David T behind. Obo just being overtaken by SS7. So the Mercedes driver is making strides forward here after a pretty tough sprint race. I see M. Dorling had rejoined. They are down there in 5th place, but they are still on the same lap. So we'll see if M. Dorling can switch that car on pretty quickly and get back in to the race. So SS7 now leads this group of cars 3 seconds back from Emilecki, but we'll want to close that gap down. We'll keep an eye on that. NRG Panzerotto and M1 Righty, I'm going to go up to them, are lying astern. We won't take that fastest lap time from M. Dorling, a 3.358. I think the game is just having a moment as M. Dorling returns to the race here. So, M1 Righty starting to come under pressure from the AlphaTauri driver. NRG Panzerotto looking to establish themselves as a podium finisher here. This is definitely a track that suits their driving style. Another, sadly, 3-second time penalty for Sam Ross and also for Sancho Killer, which will be NRG's teammate here today. M1 Righty sets the truest fast time, 1:25.870, but they are dragging NRG Panzerotto and SHS Predestinato with them. Emilecki now 3.5 seconds back from SHS Predestinato. Got to be thinking about getting off those soft tyres before it's too late, because they are now being closed down by SS7, who's got the gap to Emilecki down to 2.5 seconds. SS7 has plenty of battery left, so they've got room for charge as the Alpha driver of Obo really loses it coming out of, or on the entry to turn 6 there. So that's allowing David T, certainly giving David T some hope of moving up into 6th place. And Emilecki is definitely dropping back from the front runners. Without that DRS, that's incredibly tough to try and stay with those fast runners in front. David T trying to find a way, to certainly get close enough to find a way past Obo in front of them. Spicy Nuts is down here in 8th position. I'm going to zip back to the top very quickly. We see NRG Panzerottos close right onto the back of M1 Righty as they come onto the main straight. They will now have DRS on the Alpine driver, and they'll go down the inside. They cut back across pretty quickly in front of M1 to get the more favourable line into turn 1. And Toby, that's NRG Panzerotto into the lead of this race. Oh, where have they come from?
Must be taking it easy with the DRS, because I've seen them getting closer and closer to M1, or M1's just pushed and asked too much from the tyres and it's just gone off.
Well, it's a brilliant drive so far from NRG Panzerotto. I think they've really surprised us. They've struggled, in all honesty, in previous races, in many cases just to finish, but they're doing more than that here right now with a 2nd place finish in the sprint race, and now moving into the lead of this race. We have a long way to go, and SHS Predestinato has obviously just been pacing themselves behind these cars in front. They don't have to push hard whilst they stay very close together, and maybe that's the strategy for M1, that maybe they just sit behind and save their tyres, preserve their tyres a little bit more, charge up their ERS and go again when the time is right. Emilecki, though, has really dropped back from this group and also has now picked up a 3-second time penalty. So things starting to look a bit dodgy for Emilecki at this stage in the race. A long way still for us to go. And these 3 seconds, though, will stay with them till the very end. They can't serve those in the pit lane. They just get added on at the end. Jojo also getting a 3-second time penalty. But SS7 is within 1.5 seconds of the Aston Martin now. These medium runners starting to pick up the pace. Pete, I don't know if you can see what SS7's lap times are compared to our front runners, whether or not they're within a similar range. So 0.5 second slower for SS7 than the front runners, but they are definitely lapping faster than the Aston Martin of Emilecki in front of them, and have nearly got within that 1 second DRS range. And we've seen multiple times already how that DRS enables these drivers to get past super quick. And these penalties, and I'm going to bring those penalties up. So NRG Panzerotto has just picked up a penalty. So we have seen them going wide a couple of times, and maybe that third one has just occurred. So that's really going to hurt them in terms of finishing, unless they can pull out a significant distance from M1 and SHS, those two Alpine drivers looking to hunt down NRG at the earliest possible opportunity. M. Dorling picking up a 3-second time penalty. They'll be pushing hard as Emilecki comes into the pits, the first one to come in. Well, you called it, Toby. You reckoned around about lap 10 those soft runners will be in, and Emilecki is in.
Yeah, those softs, especially if they aren't brand new, aren't saved from quali, definitely wouldn't have lasted, gone 10 laps. Due to that front left, it's just not going to give you grip.
And we see sadly, M. Dorling retiring from the race. So that unfortunately means the Alfa Romeo driver is not going to pick up any points this week, but it's clearly not been their day. Just bad luck, nothing to do with driving at all. So that's a real shame for M. Dorling. They haven't been able to translate that into some successes. But that's you might be wondering, we've got two DNFs. We had the same situation again as last week, where Toby got put into a car at the start of the race without their knowledge. So Toby retired that immediately, which is good. Gets that car off the track and out the way of our actual drivers who are racing here. So SS7 is 6.8 seconds back from SHS Predestinato. They are dragging David T with them. So SS7 now gets a 3-second time penalty. They'll be kicking themselves there. David T definitely does not, as SS7 goes in. So SS7 is going to switch over here. There's some big penalties out there. Sam Ross was the winner so far, won 15 seconds. Ouch, that's going to hurt them a bit. Jojo's got 6. Emma Lecky's got 6. That's also going to hurt. They're picking up another 3 seconds just now. Everyone else with 3 seconds. So we'll go back to tyres. So SS7 has immediately gone on to soft tyres. So they started on mediums. They've now gone on to softs. We'll see if they can take them. So it's definitely got to be 2 stops for SS7, Toby.
Yeah, he's definitely, I believe he only saved 1 set of new softs. So it's got to be a soft and then a used soft, or a soft and a medium. Those softs will not be able to make it.
And it's Obo setting the fastest lap of the race so far with a 1:24. 1:07, I think that was. 1:05, my apologies. So Obo going incredibly well on a new set of medium tyres. Mediums may be the tyre to be on, but remember our drivers have to use a different compound of tyres. They have to change at least once. So Obo went from softs to mediums. That's their switch done. SS7 has gone from mediums to softs. And we see Gabri in the Twitch chat. Welcome. Thanks very much for being here, M1 Racing, and your wish is my command. We are back up to the front of the race here with NRG Panzerotto leading the way from SHS Predestinato. And then M1 Righty. In third place, the 2 Alpine drivers not letting the Alpha Tauri get away. We're on lap 12. Spicy Nuts picking up a 3-second time penalty. And as you may have noticed, we do like to spend time with our drivers throughout the grid. They turn up to race, and I know they like a little bit of coverage, but we do want to keep you abreast of all the action at the front as well as further on down the field. Massive battle in the midfield here between Obo, SS7, David T, Sam Ross, as drivers are on different strategies here, coming in and out of pits trying to avoid each other. At the moment, Sancho Killer has moved up into 4th. Then comes Emma Leckie now on brand new medium tyres. Then SS7 on their very new softs. Then Obo, who was setting the fastest lap at one moment there a few moments ago, is now in 7th. Jojo on those 11-lap-old hard tyres, currently in 8th, but penalties galore for our drivers in the midfield at the moment. We'll get back to the front very briefly, as we see just in time to see SHS Predestinato, the first of the front runners, all locking up there as they come into the pit lane. Don't need to get on the pit limiter until just now, as we see. So SHS is going to be the first to change. So SHS is going on to hards. Brave move, Toby, from SHS. They've obviously got to want to take these hard tyres all the way to the end, I guess.
Yeah, but in a track like this with high tyre wear, the undercut's going to be extremely powerful, but then you're going to pay for it at the end of the race.
And this has unfortunately disadvantaged M1 Righty a little bit, because they have now lost the DRS of their teammate in front. So they've got to work pretty hard here to get back onto the back of NRG Panzerotto. Let's see if we get the front running 2 here into the pits to change off of those medium tyres, and whether or not they'll go for a similar strategy of SHS of onto hards until the end. SHS has held on to 3rd spot. We'll see if SS7 will stay with them on their soft tyre strategy. But M1, and Pete's telling me SHS is quick, so they are starting to close down already on those hard tyres. And this is what we were saying, Toby, isn't it? These new tyres here will give them so much more grip in these early laps. M1 Righty into the pits. NRG is staying out. So hards at the early stages in the right hands, Toby, could still be a good idea.
Yes, but you don't want to push them too hard, because you might get cold tear. All sorts could happen. You could actually wear them out so much you'll have to pit again.
Well, obviously, safety car might play a role at some point in this race. We are on lap 14, just coming up to pretty much half distance now. Gabri in the chat here in Twitch says Sam Ross 10 is in 12th place at the moment for Haas. So Sam Ross has been with us on a few previous occasions, but we haven't seen them for a couple of weeks. So we're glad that they are back with us. And we've got another Haas car out there while we wait for Mr. Hannes to recover from their injury. I don't know if Mr. Hannes is watching on the stream. If they are, shout out to you, Mr. Hannes, and I hope the recovery continues to go well. So we're going to have to work out what this means for the race. SHS is currently now in 6th place, 20 seconds back from NRG Panzerotto, but they've closed that gap to NRG very, very quickly, and we saw what that meant for M1 Righty, who has come out into a pack of other cars. So they now have Emeleki and SS7 in front of them. So that delay of getting into the pits is sadly going to mean they've got to work an awful lot harder. But they do have the benefit of DRS from the cars in front, whereas SHS is having to close down that gap to NRG Panzerotto on their own. M1 Righty is buried underneath the gearbox of the Aston Martin here. NRG is in the pits now, so they'll be switching over, but they are going to lose an awful lot of time. We see M. Dorling in the Twitch chat. Well, thanks for joining us here, M. Dorling. Sorry to see the troubles you had today out on the race after such strong previous weeks, but we know you'll be back next week, and hopefully with a much stronger internet connection. Just an unfortunate set of circumstances today. So M1 Righty is past Emeleki, and SS7 is there now in 2nd place with NRG pitting. And NRG, Toby, has really lost out there. They're now down in 7th spot. And they've got to take those hard tyres all the way to the end. So perhaps hanging out all that way on mediums wasn't the best strategy, but maybe time will tell.
Yeah, you never know. They could come back at the end of the race, or they may just be stuck there from a poor strategy because of how powerful the undercut is.
Well, SS7 is coming under pressure from M1 Righty very, very quickly here. So M1 wants to get past the Mercedes driver, and we're already 4 laps in on these soft tyres. We saw them go off around this kind of distance in the early stages of this race. And maybe SS7 is starting to feel that now. They've used up their ERS. We're down below 10% of battery charge, so M1 Righty should have an easy pass here. And M1 Righty moves back into 2nd place. SS7 will want to go with them for as long as they can. And M. Dorling's reminding us to keep an eye on Obo, and we should do. Obo qualified well and drove well in the sprint, and they really had a flyer off the start of this race. So at the moment, let's just check on pit stops. So everyone has now pitted, so all mandatory pit stops have been now made. So it all comes down to what our drivers want to do in terms of their strategy. The winners so far from all of this shuffling about, SHS moving up 2 into the lead of this race. M1 Righty now in 2nd. SS7 have moved up 4 places, but remember they're on the soft tyres. We'll almost definitely have to pit one more time. David T up 3 places into 5th right now, so much better than the sprint race for them so far. No penalties for David T at the moment. Obo in 6th here, then NRG Panzerotto, and then Spicy Nuts is up 1, Desaves up 2, Jojo up 2, and Matthew M up 2. Let's get back towards Emeleki and David T. So Emeleki's on medium tyres, David T on soft tyres, but we saw the mediums come into their own very, very well around about 7 or 8 laps in. So David T is looking down the inside here of Emeleki into turn 1. NRG Panzerotto sets the fastest lap with 1:23.549 for the AlphaTauri driver. So NRG going well on those hard tyres. The grip levels of those hard tyres not causing them any issues at all. But David T has moved up into 4th place now. Obo sticking with Emelecki. And NRG, unfortunately, having set that fastest lap, then picks up another 3-second time penalty. That's bad luck for them, and is going to further harm their finishing position here, having really had the pace of the 2 Alpine drivers early on in this race. So Emelecki's staying with David T, but Obo has gone with Emelecki, and NRG Panzerotto is now on the back of the Alfa Romeo driver. Little snap of oversteer for Obo, and NRG just flies past the Alfa Romeo on the outside there. Now Emelecki is next on Panzerotto's list. I think Panzerotto's not running any downforce at all today. This is quite remarkable pace from the AlphaTauri driver. 3-second time penalty for Emelecki. These penalties are going to play such an important role at the end of this race. NRG will now pass the the Aston Martin driver. May even get the Haas as well. Wow, what straight line speed from the AlphaTauri driver there. So NRG moves from 6th up to 4th in the space of one straight only. That, Toby, that's some incredible straight line speed from the AlphaTauri there.
Yeah, definitely running very low, but also those mediums have finally come in, or those hards have finally come into play, and everyone else who's tried to undercut is now suffering.
They really are, and this, the hards may be the tyre of choice for the second half of this race, but a safety car will really mix things up. We'll see a real dash of cars into the pit lane, I am sure, and there may be one or two others thinking that they may even go for another set of mediums or another set of softs now. Their options are open to them, thinking that that might help them out also. So nothing is done and dusted yet. David T is moved up into 5th, has really obviously lost the back of NRG Panzerotto now. So they've got Emelecki behind them. Let's return to the front. We've got SHS Predestinato coming round to start lap 19. Their teammate M1 Righty is closing them down. And we'll keep an eye on that gap. It's 1.4 seconds and closing very, very swiftly. So M1 needs to get in front of their teammate for those all-important championship points. Be interesting to see, I think, Toby, when SS7 comes in now. So they're out there, 8 laps old, soft tyres. They know they're not going to take these to the end. It's really when do they come in to get onto their last set of tyres, because otherwise they'll start drifting back into the rest of these drivers very, very quickly.
Definitely, I think once he starts to drift back, probably around about lap 21, 22, I would pit and either go for softs, depending on how worn his other ones are, or go for mediums.
They're definitely praying for a safety car here, the soft runners, for sure. But SHS is probably praying that M1 Righty slows down. They are nearly within DRS of SHS Predestinato. NRG is closing down on, I'm just going to look at those lap times. So on the last lap, NRG Panzerotto was 1.5, nearly 2 seconds faster than the 2 Alpines. So that difference to M1 and SHS could certainly close down very quickly, but NRG has all sorts of penalties to go with him. So M. Dorling's asked for the time penalties. Let's bring that up for you, M. Dorling. They are numerous, I think is the best way to describe it. So NRG Panzerotto's got 6, SS7 has 3, David T has nothing right now, and they'll be delighted about that. Emelecki sadly has got 9. That's going to hurt a lot at the end of this race. Obo has 3. Spicy Nuts has 9. Sancho Killer has the record at the moment with 15, and then Jojo with 6. So a pretty tough race for penalties here, and that's we've got 9 more laps to go. There will be many, many more penalties to be issued yet. So M1 has almost got into DRS of SHS Predestinato. They do such, Toby, I don't know if you noticed this with these front runners, they do such an excellent job of conserving their battery. And I think that's one of the real skills of the top drivers, that they don't have to just bin the battery to try and get pace. Oh, those M1 goes very wide there. They're going to have to be careful with that. But that was commentator's curse, I guess. But yeah, do you notice that with these front runners, they're doing a really good job of holding on to that battery?
Yeah, definitely, because they don't have to push themselves. They can follow closely.
So pit stops for SS7, David T and Obo on lap 21. So, and SFS is going in as well, as is Spicy Nut. So this was the switchover point, the last pit stop time, lap 21 for these two stoppers. 9 more laps to go, and SS7, David T and Obo all out indeed. All of those pitting drivers onto soft tyres. And they would love a safety car to allow this field to close up. But this midfield are really going to be battling for places. M1 has now got within DRS of SHS. So the fight for the lead of this race is on. M1's got some pace here, Toby. They obviously made it count in qualifying and in the sprint race, but they've got to be thinking they can take the win here.
Possibly. They are only 7 seconds behind, or 7/10 behind, and they don't have to worry about NRG, being that they've got a 3+ second time penalty. So yeah, there's no risk going for them. They're on younger tyres than SHS as well.
Yeah, they definitely are. They're up within half a second now. That DRS wide open. Coming into turn 1, so we've got a close eye on the front of this race. Looks as though we've got a bit of a gap between all our midfield runners at the moment, and also a real plethora of penalties out there for our drivers. David T doing incredibly well with no penalties at all at this point, and they are sitting pretty in 6th place, and now on to brand new soft tyres for David T in the Haas. So we're staying with M1 righty, as they're going to try and find a way past their Alpine teammate of SHS Predestinato and look to close up that gap in the championship as we go into the final 2 rounds of G-Force Racing Season 2. And M1's been very consistent in recent races, picking up points, and it's really helped narrow this field down. We've got a yellow flag in Sector 1, and that is Spicy Nuts and Sancho Killer coming together. I think we're certainly having a moment. That yellow flag has cleared, so no safety car. Our drivers at the front will be looking over their shoulders, although they'd have plenty of time to get in and change and back out again. So I think they would be okay if the timing was right for them. So M1 now has DRS down the main straight. Is going to easily get past SHS Predestinato into the lead of this race. Well done, M1 righty. They move up into the lead, and SHS will need to stick with them. I'm going to go down to a bit of a battle here, it seems, between Sancho and Spicy Nuts. It seemed to be exchanging places. Spicy was on, has moved on to some brand new soft tyres, so they will pull away from Sancho pretty quick. SS7 setting the fastest lap of the race, 1:23.366. 2.6 seconds faster than anyone else out there at the moment. So SS7 has an awful long way to go to close down that 21 seconds to NRG Panzerotto. But we'll see how, if they close down at 2.5 seconds a lap, they'll be within a shout of that if those soft tyres hang on. David T here is in 5th spot. Going well. No penalties. And let's bring up those penalties one more time, because we're getting towards the end of the race. We've got a ghosting Matthew M, who we lost early on, sadly. Oh, my penalty's gone. I went the wrong way, folks. Sorry for that. So, 6 seconds for NRG Panzerotto. That will play into the hands of possibly both SS7 and David T, if they can close that 20-second or so gap down to the AlphaTauri driver. Then Obo and Emeleki, Desaves may benefit from those penalties to Emeleki, giving us 9 seconds. That's going to hurt Emeleki a lot here today. So I think we might just keep those penalties up on the screen, as we've only got 5 more laps to go. as we start 20. We're just on lap 24, not 29. Emeleki setting the fastest lap of the race. So these soft tyres really coming into their own. 122.496 for Emeleki. Remember, if a driver finishes in the top 10 and gets the fastest lap, that's an extra bonus point for them. So Emeleki trying to make up for perhaps a lowly running position by their recent standards at the moment. And Toby, this has really turned into a battle of the Alpine drivers after what was looking like a three-way battle between M1 Righty, Predestinato and Panzerotto. I think it's really just the Alpine drivers have got this one right and they're fighting this out on their own. Who are you going to pick to win it from here?
I think M1, just because they've got fresher tyres and fresh tyres are just everything on this circuit.
They threw another 3 seconds for Sancho Killer, so they're going to max out our timing screen here, I think, with 18 seconds at the moment for Sancho Killer. A tough race for them around Qatar, it would seem. SHS was out of battery there, so they're doing their absolute best to stay on the back of M1. But M1 really does have some incredible pace round here. These hard tyres will obviously take them all now to the very, very end. SHS is pushing as hard as they can. They cannot afford to let their teammate get away. We've got a yellow flag in Sector 2. It's cleared very, very quickly. So it looks as though Sancho going wide. So SHS desperately trying to stay with their teammate. But M1 Right is starting to pull out a little bit. But SHS will have DRS again on the main straight. I'm looking down to Emeleki and Obo. So Emeleki is now trying to find a way past Obo. Oh, Emeleki gets very sideways. Another 3 seconds for Emeleki. That's 12 seconds for Emeleki. Toby, those 12 seconds for Emeleki is going to... I'm going back to the lead very quickly. Pete's just whispered in my ear. So this is going to change time and time again. I think SHS has taken the lead of this race. Great drive from Predestinato. They get back into the lead of this race. It's not done yet though, folks. We've got 3 more laps to go after this one. If M1 Righty can stay in the slipstream of SHS Predestinato, we're going to have switch, I think, every single lap before the end of this race. Do we want to get back to Obo and Emeleki? Unfortunately, Toby, we've got another yellow flag. Sorry, Toby. We do want to bring you.
Sancho's just hit the wall.
Sancho's hit the wall. Now it's cleared. Right. So we won't see a safety car from that. Yeah. So just give me your thoughts here on Emeleki and their time penalties. They've been so strong in recent weeks, but you know this only too well from personal experience. I do as well. It's so easy to rack up these penalties, and it's going to send Emeleki tumbling down the grid or the finishing order.
It's not going to send him anywhere. He's finishing P7. The Mercedes is still 13.5 seconds behind him.
Good spot. So indeed, SFS is 13.5 seconds. They are not going to really, it's not going to hurt them too much, but it's not going to help them trying to get past Obo, that's for sure. So they won't be able to gain any more from here. So they are going to finish in 7th, almost certainly. Back to the front of the race here. So M1 will now have the DRS from SHS Predestinato. We don't get another switch of the lead. And now this is where M1 can probably play the waiting game and save it to the last lap and put the pressure on Predestinato to try and stay ahead. We're going to have a real game of cat and mouse here, Toby.
Yeah, it's who you can save the tyres the most. M1 has already got the advantage, being it 1 lap younger. But then how much is SHS willing to push on these tyres?
It's not. The soft tyres for SS7 haven't helped them too massively. They've got the gap down to Panzerotto to 11.5 seconds. They need to close up another pretty much another 8 or 9 seconds. They've got a 3-second penalty and Panzerotto's got 6 seconds. So they've got to go some to really take 3rd spot. And David T is looking ahead of them thinking I need to stay within 3 seconds of SS7 and I'll pick up 4th spot and potentially 3rd if Panzerotto makes a mistake. SS7 is still closing that gap down. Pete, I don't know if you see what the lap times are for SS7 compared to Panzerotto. And as I say, the SS7 picks up another 3-second time penalty. So unfortunately, it's not helping SS7 too much, but it really is helping David T, who's looking to have a pretty decent... Oh, sorry, I came away from M1 Righty. As they are coming back past Predestinato with 2 laps left to go of round 10 here in Qatar. The championship not to be decided here today, but it can be certainly influenced very significantly by where M1 or Predestinato finish. Predestinato now coming back at M1 Righty. Moving back into the lead of this race. I don't know if M1 was expecting that. Pretty great move. I don't know if you saw it, Toby, from Predestinato.
I saw it from M1's perspective. He just came out of nowhere, and he's just dropped M1 now.
I wonder if M1's got a massive problem. They're going very, very slowly. I don't know whether it's a puncture. We will see.
I can't see a puncture on their tyres.
Oh, do you know what? I think they have. We'll see if they come into the pits. My suspicion is that M1 has a puncture. Yeah, front right, Pete's telling me, and that was what I was looking at. So it could well be that the Qatar circuit has taken its first tyre victim. This will be the first ever time that we have had I think a proper puncture. No, M1 is carrying on. Or maybe they just know they're going to lose too much time, but they're dropping back massively. This is now the same if potentially could happen to Predestinato if it is indeed a puncture. Panzerotto is closed up enormously. We're on the final lap of the race here. M1 being closed down hand over fist by NRG Panzerotto. They clearly must have some kind of damage or some kind of technical issue, but NRG is going to get past them and will want to pull 6 seconds clear of the Alpine driver before the end of this lap. So NRG moves into second place on track at least, but needs to be 6 seconds clear before the end of the race. SS7 may be coming up to M1 very, very shortly as well, as will David T. This is really tough luck, Toby, for... I wonder if... I think SHS also has the same problem. Yeah, I think SHS has the same problem also. I think these hards have blown for... Yeah, I'm pretty sure. It's hard to tell on the game. Yeah, Gabriel's saying in chat they've just got no tyres left. So it's all going to come down to can these drivers get the cars to the end and how far ahead NRG is going to come past Predestinato. They already definitely have second on the finishing order. NRG is going to come over to take first on track. NRG picks up another. That's 9 seconds now for Panzerotto. SHS will win this race. Just. NRG has disappeared off into the scenery. SS7 is currently going to take third, but David T is going to move into second. Well, I don't know how... Toby, those penalties and the tyre strategies from our drivers have really given us an absolutely shock ending to this race, but SHS has won it. Who do you give your driver of the day to?
Definitely either David. It's got to be one of the top 3, maybe even top 4, being M1 managed to hold off even with a puncture and still get P4. But it's got to be David or NRG, just being that they've had the pace. NRG has been fighting at the front all time, but then David managed to sneak a P2 in. So
yeah, I would have given NRG driver for the sprint race, but I'm going to go with you. I think David T deserve it. They've got their strategy right. I think SHS did well to get the car over the line, and to take the victory. So they managed to get it there. We see Gabriel in the chat saying that I think Predestinato lost 3 tyres. They were just coming home on a unicycle. I think but they did come over to take the victory. That's a huge victory in the context of the Drivers' Championship. Pete, who's your driver of the day? Predestinato for Pete, and I don't blame him either. It was an amazing drive to actually take the victory and get that car over the line. Slightly reminiscent of Hamilton at Silverstone all those years ago. But what a amazing finish to that race. So much action. We thought we'd have three-way between Predestinato, Panzerossi and M1 Righty. But in the end, on the feature race, it was SHS that came out on top with David T in second. Pretty incredible finish. So these are the way the game shows us these results, folks, is both the sprint and the feature race points combined. It won't let me switch whenever I try to do this on the game because I'm in as a commentator. So sadly, this is the view we get. But if you would like to see the full finishing positions, head over to our Discord channel at the weekend and you will see them. But congratulations to SHS, who gets the most points out of the sprint and the feature race. NRG Panzerotto, what a great race day for them. And then M1 Righty keeps their challenge alive, but only just. It's not mathematically done, I don't think, just yet, the championship. But SHS Predestinato has taken huge strides towards retaining their championship, having won Season 1. It looks as though they just need to keep it on track, although they almost didn't today. So congratulations to all of our drivers. Toby, one last word from you before we go here. What's your main highlights from today's Qatar Grand Prix?
Definitely the punctures, because that threw a whole spanner in the works, and how David and SS7 could come back.
And for me, it was just the end. We didn't know who was going to finish where. It was just a thoroughly entertaining set of races, and also the sprint race didn't leave us disappointed either. With Panzerotto and M1 Righty and SHS Predestinato fighting it out, three-way battle at the front of that particular race. Right, before we leave you folks, let me remind you that's the Monza results. Let me bring up the calendar. Where we're going to be next week. We are back under the lights, but we are changing continent. We are off to the US of A, to Las Vegas, as we blast down the strip for what I'm pretty sure is going to be quite an exciting race. Some similarities to Qatar, but some significant differences as we wind our way through the casinos of Vegas at night time, as long as SS7 sets the game up correctly, that is. So my thanks to Toby for being with me in the commentary box. My thanks to Pete, as always, for keeping us informed of everything that's happening around us that we can't bring you on the stream live. To our drivers for giving us another fantastic round of racing. I know I say it every week, but we genuinely do enjoy every single moment of it. We don't make it up. It is great fun to watch, and we hope you agree with that. And to all of you for watching, for spending some time with us on your Wednesday, we really do appreciate it, you taking the time to be with us. And I hope you come and join us next week, 8 p.m. UK time, for round 11 of GFR Racing Elite League, as we get to the last two rounds of season 2 and find out, can Predestinato take the championship? Alpine pretty much got that nailed on, but who's going to take second and third? Come and join us next week. Until then, stay safe, and we'll see you very, very soon.